Hey everybody, it's Harry. This is video number 3 on the series that I'm putting out on living and motivating yourself while dealing with clinical depression. So in the first video, I talked about how it feels to be a person that is living with clinical depression. In the second video, I talked about limiting the input that you take in and the difference in how a person with a quote-unquote normal psyche is motivated versus a person who is living with clinical depression and how their psyche is motivated. Well, in this video, I'm going to go a little further and take a little different tact. I'm going to talk to you today about how to motivate somebody that has clinical depression. So if you're a manager, a supervisor, director, whatever, and you have teammates, employees, whatever your particular company calls them, let me start by saying, whether you know it or not, you have people on your staff that are suffering with clinical depression. And I use the word suffering because it isn't something that is always easy. Some people get through life, they have it, they have medication, they do, and it's all good and you'd never know it. But some of the most famous people, and in particular comedians, a lot of them have been diagnosed with clinical depression, and I won't name names, I don't want to be sued, thanks. But a lot of the humor that we see that we think is so funny, and the class clown and all those people and stand-up comics and all this, a lot of those people have clinical depression. You can be funny, you can be happy, and still have clinical depression. One is a condition, the other is a state of mind. So I had somebody say to me not long ago, we were discussing this, they had seen the first video, had no clue that I was diagnosed with clinical depression many years ago. And they said, I never would have known. And I'm saying, that's because the medication works. But the reality of it is that you will have people that you run across both in your daily life, through work, socially, that are or have been diagnosed with clinical depression. They're not going to walk around mopey. They're not going to usually be crying all the time. They're not going to be doomsday. Some of them are, like anything. But a lot of them are just going to be normal people. They're just doing their job. They're showing up to work. They're showing up on time. They're all these things. But you also may have those people that have the little telltale signs. They don't integrate well or mix well with a lot of people. Or they suffer from some hygiene issues, if you will, that come and go. Doesn't mean somebody that has a hygiene issue has clinical depression, but it is one of the signs to look for. You may find that they tend to eat alone, or the opposite can be true. They always can't be alone, and they want to be where there's a lot of people, and they want to be the center of attention. Very often that's something to look at as well. The other thing that you'll run across with someone who has clinical depression is that they will constantly, if you're the manager or their supervisor, they will constantly be seeking your approval. They will come to you and say, hey, I did this, or hey, I did that. They're looking for positive affirmation from you. That's, again, goes back to the people, some of the people who suffer with clinical depression have a lower than average self-esteem. Doesn't mean they have to, it's not a universal, but a lot of times that's true. The fact that they have this clinical depression leads them to feel that they're not quite up to snuff. So here's a couple of things that ought to be looked at if you're a manager. If you have somebody that's constantly coming up to you, constantly seeking your approval, if you will, it's kind of a sign. I will also tell you that many people that have clinical depression can be amazing to work with. They can be top of the tier. They want to please so bad because they're looking for that positive affirmation. Doesn't mean they're not going to be good teammates. It doesn't mean that they're not going to be productive. It doesn't mean that they're going to break down the morale in your group or in your team. They just need that little extra understanding, little extra patience. If they seem like they're trying to get in your good graces or trying too hard, they're just looking for positive affirmation. If you give them that, they'll go out of their way to do whatever they can to do really well for you. It's not bad having that kind of a person in your organization or on your team. Very often they're very creative. They're very funny. They really, really go out of their way to please. So look at that as a bright side of the whole thing. You're not there to be their counselor. I'm not telling you to try to be their buddy or their pal or their counselor or anything like that. What I am saying is understand that these people have the same emotions, desires, dreams, goals, and aspirations as anybody else. They just need the little bit of understanding that they may need a little reassurance from time to time so that they can actually feel like it was a productive day or a productive meeting or a productive schedule or whatever the case may be, whatever your situation is. But look at that and realize that for what it is. The next video I'm going to talk about, and it probably won't be out for about a week, but I'm going to talk about faith and how faith can help a person that has clinical depression. It has been a big part of my life. Two faiths have actually been a big part of my life and still are to this day. So it's something that I'm telling people that in advance so that if you're watching this series and you're an agnostic or an atheist or whatever, you may want to skip that. You may not. It has other information in it, but it's going to be a few days before I get it out, maybe as much as a week. I thank you for joining me on this journey. I thank you for understanding that this video, not every video will be for every person, but I hope you'll gain a little something from each one. Thank you for watching and taking your time. I know we're all very busy, and I'll see you again real soon. So you stay positive, keep loving your heart, keep doing well, keep smiling.